Call to order the Wickliffe City Council Meeting on March 12, 2018. Sandy, please call the roll.
Untitled.
Here.
Bogo.
Present.
Jaworski.
Here.
Koski. Here. Levon.
Here.
Sakis.
Here.
Saloto. Here.
Resolution 2018-3. Mayor.
Yeah, quick introduction. Matt Babica, who's here in the audience. Matt's a friend of all of ours here in Wickliffe. Grew up here in Wickliffe, family's still here, and he's worked with our police department in regards to bleed control training for trauma situations. Amongst other endeavors, he's currently working with the Lorain County SWAT team. And after the recent school shooting, he reached out to me to offer a program to help mitigate loss of life should there be a trauma situation in Wickliffe, which will be held April 7th at the community center. So we're going to do a resolution declaring April 7th Stop the Bleed Day in conjunction with National Stop the Bleed Day. So Matt's going to take a moment or two and give us an overview of this program and what he hopes to accomplish.
Sure. Thanks for having me, everyone. Good evening. Mayor Barbers, thanks again for having me, and thanks for the city commitment for National Stop the Bleed Day. Very quick about myself. Obviously, I grew up in Wickliffe. John's your group actually. And from there, I had a stint in the military, 2 tours as a medical specialist. I was a medical service corps officer. So obviously I had some of my experience under fire there with the 82nd Airborne Division. Came back and I'm applying that the way I best see fit in our communities, given light of recent events, and actually going back as far as our year group with our first school shooting. So obviously the big scary kind of cloak around Stop the Bleed is mitigation of loss of life during mass shooting events. Things that the average individual can do on the ground to bridge that gap in time before our firefighters and law enforcement can get in. Obviously, there might be a situation that prevents the professionals from getting in to focus on medical care because there's still policing to do. So I come in to bridge that gap for the layperson and what they can do to buy time and increase our survivability. So that goes to the kind of the scary shooting part. Obviously, trauma management is something anyone can benefit from. With motor vehicle accidents, residential construction, working with power tools, industrial work environments, we've actually found that the leading cause of death for those under the age of 46 is trauma. So if you can think back to when CPR AED certifications became popular, the American College of Surgeons determined the leading cause for the elderly and seniors was heart attacks. So what can we do? Become CPR AED certified. What can we give the layperson? Well, unfortunately, a little bit more scary is traumatic wounds, something we can bleed out before qualified professionals get there. That's sort of the new CPR. What can we give the layperson? So working with John and the city's commitment, I'm going to provide a day of free education with multiple classes all day at the community center April 7th to push this layperson care for anyone that wants to sign up. So that's in conjunction with the Federal Department of Homeland Security Post 9/11 Stop the Bleed course and the National Stop the Bleed Day, which pre-hospital care and military medics like myself kind of stood up to elevate and highlight a program that the federal government has already been pushing. So obviously some of the events like Sandy Hook, the Paris shooting, the Vegas events, and now the most recent school shooting, we've decided to highlight that and say we need to do something now for the long-term policy reform to take effect. People are still bleeding. So I'm going to take charge on the ground with John's blessing, and we're going to affect what we can do right now in the community. So again, thank you very much, and I look forward to anyone who wants to sign up for April 7th. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. For the signature here. Photo, we sign it and we'll do a handshake?
Absolutely. Just a shake and take.
All right.
John, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Got it.
Got it right. All right. Thank you, man. John. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for suspension on Resolution 2018-3.
I'll make a suspension.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Koski, seconded by Councilman Jaworski to suspend the rules of council and place Resolution 2018-3 on third and final reading. Discussion? Sandy, please call the roll.
Untitled.
Yes.
Bogo.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Koski.
Yes.
Levon.
Yes.
Sakis.
Yes.
Saloto. Yes.
Adoption.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Koski, seconded by Councilman Jaworski to adopt Resolution 2018-3 as presented. Discussion? Sandy, please call the roll.
Untitled.
Yes.
Bogo.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Koski. Levon.
Yes.
Sakis.
Yes.
Saloto. Yes.
Approval of council minutes of February 26, 2018.
Make a motion, accept the minutes. Second.
Moved by Councilman Bogo, seconded by Councilman Galilillo to approve the council minutes of February 26, 2018. Discussion. Sandy, please call the roll.
Bianca.
Yes.
Bogo.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Kowski.
Yes.
Levon.
Yes.
Sakis.
Yes.
Saloto. Yes.
Reports and communications from the Mayor, Safety Director.
Yes, and to continue on to the resolution for Stop the Bleed Day, I understand this isn't going to prevent, these horrific situations, but while the conversations are happening to change legislation or safety in the schools, the police chief and the superintendent have been having some conversations in regards to the school resource officer and what is that going to look like. Again, like Matt said, what can we do right now that's actionable that we can help with. I did send my written report. There's a few things since then. So I did ask Councilperson Jaworski to call a meeting for economic development, and I also asked Councilperson Saloto to call a legislation and welfare meeting to review our property maintenance codes. I did receive a letter from Lake County Sheriff's Office, commending some of our firefighters and Chief Powers. It was Monday, March 5th. There was a standoff with a man in Chester Township, which lasted well into the night, into the early morning. And the fire personnel, they provided a warming station, hot coffee and food, even including breakfast, to the teams that were out there negotiating. And I've never been in one of these situations before. I can only imagine the stress upon these people, so I wanted to commend our fire department for helping out in that situation, trying to make it less stressful. The firefighters mentioned Captain James Ism, firefighter Dan Bauer, firefighter Mark Toth, firefighter Jake Foster. So again, thanks to everybody on that team for helping out. I did talk about the conversation Councilman Sakis and I had with the county building department. Again, there's quite a bit to explore there. Like, he's going to ask for Council President Levon to call a meeting next week to have them come in and talk. And essentially, I got a couple phone calls and emails from putting my report out, and it's not an all or nothing situation. It's not the county absorbs our building department fully, but it puts the inspections on them. It allows us to focus on property maintenance enforcement, the aesthetics of the city, keeping up, like I mentioned in my campaign in earlier weeks, raising the bar on what we're doing in Wickliffe. That's why we're going to be reviewing the property maintenance codes. So again, it's a good conversation. The county can talk about it better than I can, but I did list several benefits to that. There's a small portion we'd lose. Councilperson Kowski had asked me, well, what do we lose all this money? They bring in a lot of money, and they do bring in some money, which we still would. We would lose about $31,552 of what came up last year, and that was from residential building permits, residential HVAC, and residential sewer. But again, it would help as time goes on. We're looking to make some changes and be more efficient. Did talk about the Do Not Knock registry a while back. I've instructed Law Director Zeely to prepare the necessary language to adopt that program, as surrounding neighborhoods have. One more thing, I did receive a letter, and this is more, not necessarily for council, but for the public, and so hopefully folks will see this. I received a letter, and I just saw it maybe an hour ago. Page and a half letter, mainly complaints, which I've received a few of these, and I have to say, again, that's part of my job, I'm not complaining about that. I take a lot of complaints, email, phone calls. I'm glad to have these conversations and look into things. But I've gotten a few where nobody puts their name, nobody puts their contact information, and I cannot follow up on every single complaint I get, especially if it doesn't have any contact information. So for the folks out there, folks in the audience, I'm not hard to get a hold of. Most people have my cell phone. It's on my card. I'm in here a couple days a week returning calls on here. I get the emails to my phone. If there's a true concern for staff in the community, a way we're handling a program, a way we're handling a situation, a finance meeting, whatever it may be, pick up the phone, come up to the meeting, put your name to it so we can at least have a civil conversation. And this letter in particular, it started off with derogatory remarks towards one of the employees. So even with that, I can't do anything with this. So again, just to let people know, it's an open door policy. Have a conversation with us so we can try to work together on some of these things. And everything else is in my written report, and I will pass it on from there.
Any questions or comments for the Mayor Safety Director? Thank you, Mayor. Reports and communications from the Director of Law.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Just want to let council know charter review seems to be going well. They've had 3 meetings so far. They plan on meeting again Wednesday evening, this Wednesday, I believe, for their 4th meeting. I've been reviewing the minutes from the meetings. It looks like there's a lot of good discussion going on. I believe they want to have me there, one of their upcoming meetings, to start discussing certain issues, questions they have. So it looks like they're progressing very well. Another item I want to bring up is I just received a letter today from the Ohio Casino Control Commission, and it's in regards to these gambling facilities in the different cities. Now, we do have ordinances in place, so we don't have that problem in this city. I know a few years back, prior to me being law director, Mr. Gargiulo did a lot of work on this in the city. And it looks like they have updated the revised code. April 23rd, there's 20 new administrative rules going into effect to try to further eliminate some of this and help, because it's, even under the current rules, it's real hard to tell what's technically legal and what's illegal. So it shouldn't really affect our city at this point because of our current codes, but looks like they are, moving forward, trying to tighten that up, and they're even offering free CLE classes for anybody that wants to be educated on these new rules. So just wanted to make council aware of that. Then the last item I have tonight is I would like to ask that a meeting be called for the committee of the whole regarding the Cabin Park Drive culvert pipe issue. That was in committee. We last met last summer regarding it. I know from the city engineer and from the building commissioner, we do have more information we'd like to present to the committee.
Okay. I have other meetings I'll call for the committee of the whole, so I'll add that all at once.
Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for the law director? Councilman Jaworski.
Scott, just one for you. With those rules that are changing, will that affect Mount Carmel and anything that they do for their yearly festival?
I do not know. As a matter of fact, I tried to find these rules online, and I have not been able to find the administrative rules yet. Like I said, it goes into effect April 23rd, 2018. It's still under a House, well, it's through a House bill. It's going to, go into effect. I'll follow up on that and read that and see. I think it's mainly geared towards these for-profit startup doing these businesses,
Sure.
But it very well could, so I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, I appreciate if you just even let them know that those rules were changed so they're aware of it.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments for the law director? Thank you, Mr. Zealy. Communications from Council President. I have two. I sent an email out to Council about First Energy having customer assistance programs. In case any of your residents had any questions or concerns about not having difficulty paying their electric utility bills, there are programs they do offer. You can pass it on to your residents if they do call you about that or question it. And number two, I will not be at the next meeting, March 26th. I'll be out of town for work. So you will need to nominate and elect a council president pro temp on the 26th. Any other comments or questions for?
At that meeting?
At that meeting, yes. Okay. Additions or amendments to the agenda?
Okay,
Councilman Sakis.
yes, sorry. Under new business A, if we could put the Lake County Building Department gentleman to come in and speak with us.
Okay. Under new business, Lake County Building Department. Any other new business? I'd like to add executive session to line item 19 and move adjournment to discuss personnel and move adjournment to 20. Anything else? We'll move on to administrators. Please, Chief Ice.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple of pieces of information that the council may find of interest. On Friday, March 3rd, our department received a Crime Stoppers tip for an anonymous that someone in Robert Street, a female, was beaten severely and then was unconscious and then dragged away by this male. So the tip was pretty extensive. So detectives came in and started interviewing people. We found the suspect, or we think the suspect is. His name is Scott Smith, and he had served 10 years in prison for a homicide. He just got out. So we ended up finding the victim. She was staying in a hotel in Menor. So we interviewed her, and she had severe injuries, including a broken neck. She refused to do anything about it, but this guy was on parole, so we contacted his parole officer, and he wanted the violators or send them back in front of the judge. So we looked for him for a couple of days and couldn't find him, and then we found him actually at a bar in Wickliffe, and detectives and patrol guys got around the bar he was at when he came out. The Wickliffe officer tried to stop him. He stopped initially, but then he fled, and he fled down towards his house on Robert Street, and slammed his brakes on, and the Wickliffe car was actually damaged. But we was arrested, and we arrested him. So hopefully he'll be spending a few more years in prison on the parole violation and also for the felony 3 fleeing and looting. The other thing I want you guys to be aware of, the mayor had mentioned about the fire department going to Chester Township to assist with a barricaded suspect that they have there. As a result of that, our SWAT team got called out to Madison Township for a barricaded man out there, and we fired some rounds. So I just like to take the opportunity to make sure council understands that there's 3 SWAT teams in Lake County. The sheriff's department has a SWAT team, and then they compromise Lake County, Asheville, and Jogger County. That event was in Jogger County, that's why they were there. Mentor has a SWAT team, and then the other SWAT team is the one that we have. It's comprised of 7 cities, and Lieutenant Hanks from our department is the commander of that team. So we were called out there for that, and so our guys were out there for probably 6 or 8 hours. Eventually, our negotiators, Sergeant Sacco, talked them into surrender. So actually, the article was in the paper. I don't know if you guys saw it or not. It didn't mention our name or whatever, but it just said what had happened. So I just thought maybe you would find that interesting. And that's all that I would have.
Any questions or comments? Councilman Sachs.
Chief, okay, so I had a conversation this afternoon with the new owners of Casa Divina, and we were discussing, so the patio in the summer is going to be open. They're going to have live music, nothing crazy. They're going to have acoustic performers, something like from 6:30 till 9:30. So my question is, in the past, at the Wine Barrel, I know that they had acoustic entertainment, and somebody kept calling for noise complaints, and officers, would tell them to lower it or try. So my question, I guess, to you is it 9:30? I mean, if they're playing music and it's light, or can they be shut down before that? Because someone calls a lot and told somebody that if there's live music, they're gonna call. So, I just don't want to annoy them.
The specific timeline on noise ordinances for equipment, like construction type equipment. Right. We were around about this at the time. Oftentimes we went down there, and whether or not something is too loud or not is subjective. I may think something's not too loud, and you may think it's way too loud. If they're playing rap music, I can guarantee you I'm going to think it's too loud. If they're playing something that I enjoy, maybe it won't bother me. At first, when they opened up, the other restaurant they had, the music was a little bit loud, and then they reduced it to acoustical music only. I do not believe it was too loud the times that I was down there, but we got a number of complaints from residents, and they ultimately ended up closing because I think that was the main part of it. So if they open up they start having an acoustical, the guy playing a guitar out there, he's got any kind of speakers, or we may field some complaints. So again, that's a subjective call. We don't have a decibel level, and I don't recommend that we do that. I think you just leave it to the officer's judgment of what's reasonable, and then take it from there.
Well, he was just wondering, he's like, if I telling the customers that I'm having music till 9:30, and then I'm shut down at 8:30, wouldn't I be allowed to go till the 9:30 if, whether they thought it was, he's obviously not gonna have a full band, he's just gonna have acoustic, but once again, we don't want a business to leave because they're dissatisfied, and it's nice back there, and they know it's for entertainment, they got a big stage set up, so
I agree with you, but again, there were some residents on the side streets there that were very upset, and a couple of them packed his council chambers, and they eventually ended up leaving.
Moderator Zealand.
Councilman Sakis, I'm not 100% positive, but I believe when they went for their conditional use permit with Planning Commission, that the music issue was addressed as part of their conditional use permit. I cannot, do you recall, Mr. Sack?
Yes, we did mention it in the planning commission, and they did say they're going to have some entertainment out there.
Right.
And they knew the rules, what, you know, the time limits was on there as part of their conditional use permit.
Mayor.
What are those time limits?
Until 9:30.
Until 9:30, okay.
Councilwoman Saludo.
So then it's,
Oh, sorry, John.
well then, just want to finish that thought. I mean, if it's until 9:30, it shouldn't be subjective. It's 9:30, it's 9:30, right?
That's not a criminal violation, it's a violation of the permit that they got, or the condition.
But as long as they're playing it within 9:30, it's, I don't understand how that's subjective if it states 9:30.
If something's too loud, we can issue citations for something that we deem as being too loud.
Well, I get that part's subjective, but if it's acoustic music, I mean, it's,
Well, I don't disagree with you, but this is the exact problem that we had a few years ago.
Councilwoman Saludo.
Thanks. So do we have any kind of noise ordinance at all? I mean, do we, so we don't have a decibel at all? So we just say it's subjective, if it's too loud to somebody, see, that's probably something we should correct, because this is gonna be a major issue. And not even just there, but anywhere that somebody decides to
if
open.
someone
So-
wants that patio, set it at a certain
Right,
level,
decibel,
and
right,
everyone has to deal with it.
right.
So we're not going back and forth.
Right, because right now, I mean, you know, you're right, it's very subjective. Some people are very disturbed by noise. I mean, I find that I'm disturbed by noise now with my children, but that's subjective. So, I mean, it just depends, and I'm sure some of the neighbors have issues with the noise, period. So, I mean, they didn't ask for, you know, for live music to be outside. So, if we had a particular decibel we could set, is there a way we can do that? I mean, can we tighten our ordinance a little bit?
We could. Can you explain why you said you didn't recommend using a decibel level?
Okay, because again, so let's see, I have no idea what each one of these decibel levels mean, but let's say we've set at 100. Probably 100 may be fine for me, but Councilman Bianalulu may drive him up the wall.
Right, but it would be an ordinance that we could fall back on, right?
Then,
Okay, if you create something that's too restrictive like that, then you are making it totally objective. That's actually easy for me, but I guarantee you, if you make that threshold too high, you're gonna fill this room with people that are gonna be upset. And then my response is gonna be, it's below the objective level, there's nothing I can do. As opposed to having a conversation with either the business owner or having a conversation with the resident who's having the problem.
It just sounds to me like residents are having problems, so,
Well, they were having problems last time, and a couple of them, in my view, I thought it was unreasonable. I don't think it was that, just when they went to the acoustic only. But at that point in time, I think some of the residents became so upset that the place was even there, that it didn't matter what you were gonna have, they were gonna complain. Now, that was my take.
I mean, I'm just thinking about the business as well as the residents. So if the business has parameters that they can fall back on, then, you know, they have a leg to stand on. And same with the residents. I mean, if there's a particular agreed upon decibel, then it becomes black and white.
Yes, he does. That's right, you are correct.
I've got an idea, Councilman Sack.
Councilman Kosky.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I trust the police department to be reasonable with the residents, and who knows, it may be completely different than it was the last time. So I think maybe we should wait instead of restricting everything.
Mayor.
Quick suggestion, Councilman Sakis, I don't know if you've talked to the folks that were complaining, but we know the owners of Casa Divino. I mean, I'd be okay going down there with you, knocking on a couple doors, and saying, hey, can we figure this out?
Well, I was told it was,
Try and get on the same page, if that's,
one lady in particular, is bragging that she's the reason the wine barrel closed down, and so do we approach this lady and say, hey, it's a new business, we want new business, and something of that nature. But once again, you have a residence that just doesn't want music played, then I just want it to be, if it's 9:30, that's what I was saying. If it's 9:30, it should be 9:30. They're not blaring it. We'll see how it works out. I just hate to make them want to leave for some reason, that's all.
But to your point, Maria, we can always change that ordinance. We just have to put it in the committee and discuss it and pass it
Yeah.
through.
So I agree, let's just see how it goes. But if it turns out to be a problem, I think that's the only other option. Because we don't want businesses to leave.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments for the police chief? Thank you, Chief Ice. Fire Chief Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I have nothing to add to my previously submitted report, but I will remind the residents that it's change of time. We changed batteries in our smoke detectors, and if you don't have a smoke detector, please call us and we'll install one for you for free. We have a program that does that, and smoke detectors save lives. So we encourage everyone to have a working smoke detector in their home and certainly change your batteries.
Any questions or comments for the fire chief? Councilman Jaworski.
Chief, just one. I was actually, when my wife and I moved into our house, we got new smoke detectors. I noticed that there's 2 different types of smoke detectors. Is there one that's preferred by the fire department?
Well, all of them are UL listed, so that's the most important thing. There's 2, either one's going to work for you, Councilman. So, some people have preferences one way or another. We believe the working smoke detector in your home that's UL listed is going to be perfectly fine and help your family.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Koski.
In replacing smoke detectors, is there somewhere to take them to recycle them since it says they
You can
have?
dispose of them in your normal.
But it
trash.
says they have
Well, we have it through
some kind of horrible something.
through our sources. You can dispose of it. It's considered residential waste.
Really?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the fire chief? Thank you, Chief Powers. Finance Director Doles.
The only thing I have this evening is just to remind everyone here in the council that since we went to RETA, there will be a tax preparation assistance day on March 29th at our senior center, community center, from 12 to 7. It's first come, first served. There will be several auditors from RETA there to help people fill out their tax forms or just their city tax forms.
Any questions or comments for the Finance Director? Thank you, Ms. Doles. Engineer Formica.
Thank you, Council President. I have nothing to add to my written report.
Any questions or comments for the City Engineer? Thank you, Mr. Formica. Service Director D'Ambrosia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple things. We are still doing some building maintenance. We are continuing to installing LED lights when we can in between snow events. We're doing City Hall. We're picking off a couple rooms at the police department. Also, we got a couple of calls recently. You probably saw the condition of some of the sidewalks on Euclid Avenue. The mayor suggested contacting Jab Supply, which we did. They actually had a street sweeper go out on the sidewalks, and they swept on the north side of the road. They went from Rush Road past ABB, which they don't even travel that area, so they kind of helped the city out. And that was on the north side of the road. On the south side of the road, they did from Rush Road to Warden Road. And then we kind of continued off. We did the north end from ABB and went all the way to the Provo House. You see, when we plow the road, we kick up a bunch of asphalt and just some debris, so we kind of cleaned up a lot of that. We're continuing road work on repairing catch basins and hoping the snow is going to start to taper off. It appears that it is, and we're hoping for that. That pretty much concludes my report.
Any questions or comments for the Service Director? Thank you, Mr. D'Ambrosia. Building Commissioner Sack.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I have nothing to add to my council report.
Any questions or comments for the building? Thank you, Mr. Sack. Recreation Director Stopp.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Our office is starting to get busy. I know there's snow on the ground and it's flying, but it's summertime in our office. So we're busy. We're adding new classes. We continue to look for new ideas, new classes to offer to the community. We're busy. We're getting busier. My staff is invaluable, and I continue to rely on my staff to help us out as we're getting closer and closer to summertime. So I implore you guys to be aware of that, and it's busy. Just to give you some examples, boot camp. We're offering a new class at the Community Senior Center that starts Wednesday. It's a 6-week class for anybody who wants to get in shape the boot camp way. We're going to be adding sports conditioning classes in the spring. That's something new that I haven't mentioned yet, so that's coming in the spring. We are going to be offering a self-defense class at the Community Senior Center on March 31st. It's $10 per person. It's a 2-hour workshop. It's hosted by Total Control Academy. It's going to be a hands-on class, so there will be some demonstration, some instruction there, and we are open for registration for that. So please call our office. All these classes go through our office. So as we continue to offer these new classes, we're fielding the registration, fielding the questions, fielding the payments, so we are definitely getting busy. We just started a new Family Strong class down at the Community Center on Monday nights. We had about 11, 12 people that were down there at the Community Senior Center starting a new class. It's a family, strengthening family, a strong family, strong community is the goal of this class, and we're going to continue to offer that as long as people support that class. We are, as Mr. Babika stated, we're doing the Stop the Bleed workshop on Saturday, April 7th. We have 4 classes, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. They're 90-minute classes. Call our office. That's how you sign up. That's how you register for our class. 943-7120 for those out in Wickliffe. Please do that. And we are having more and more classes that are coming down the road, new things that are happening. The Christmas in July jog, I know that we mentioned that, and our registration is online and up and running right now. We're partnering with with Cleveland, help me out, James.
Greater Cleveland Cross Country.
Greater Cleveland Cross Country. They will have the ability to help us out with some of their electronic timing. They're going to help us out with a lot of the particulars that we're newbies at. So it's going for a great cause for the Holiday Helping Hand program. It's our Christmas in July jog. It's going to be on July 28th, 7:30 in the morning. We are having our annual Easter egg hunt. We've got 2,000 eggs that we're spreading out on the back lawn of City Hall. It's for Wickliffe kids up through 7 years old. We have special gifts for each age group. It's going to be Saturday, March 24th at 11:30. Meet at the gazebo. We hold this rain, shine, sun, or snow. We have special gifts coming from the Texas Roadhouse. And our neighbors just up the street are going to be a corporate sponsor of this. It's the Richmond Heights Dental Arts. So I want to make sure that they get a plug for their financial help for this Easter egg hunt. So I just want council to be made aware that we are getting busier with our summer classes, summer activities, and new classes that we add. So our staffing is critical. So I want you to be aware of that. This concludes my report.
Any questions or comments for the Recreation Director? Councilwoman Koski.
Tim, when do you start the pool hiring and all that stuff? Is that sometime soon?
Becky will be contacting persons who were on staff last year to see what our needs are going to be. So we will be doing that. We're in the process of doing that. So by the end of the month, we'll probably start putting the applications out for our needs. So we're establishing what our needs are right now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the Recreation Director? Thank you, Mr. Stott. I'll now open the floor to audience participation. If you have to speak or say anything to the council, please stand, state your name and address clearly for the report records. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Hewitt. I'm a health educator at the Lake County General Health District. and I'm here briefly to talk to the council and the residents of Wickliffe. I am here to tell you to support Tobacco 21. Tobacco 21 is increasing around our nation and around Ohio. Presently, 5 states have adopted Tobacco 21. And as you all know, or many might not know, but City of Wickliffe and the City of Cleveland and the City of Columbus have all adopted Tobacco 21. Tobacco 21 is crucial. Many people ask why. Many people don't realize our youth start smoking at the age of 13. The average smoker, 13, which means we have 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds who are beginning to smoke. You say, you know, smoking's been around forever. Well, what I'm going to tell you might surprise you, is that the first addictive drug that our youth use is tobacco, also nicotine. Nicotine is the addictive substance that we know attaches to the dopamine receptors in the brain. Well, what we're finding, and we know the opioid crisis is a huge issue in Lake County. We now know that studies have shown that if a youth starts smoking at a young age, they are 16 times more likely to begin using heroin, approximately 14 times to begin using marijuana and other illegal substances. So we need to address the issue of raising the age for our youth to 21. And they say, well, why 21? Well, the reason is that 18, 19, and 20-year-olds basically comprise 2% of all tobacco sales. But around the country, the CDC reports that those under the age of 18, 90% of them say they get their tobacco products from those who are 18, 19, and 20. We know many in high school. How many of us know that seniors, 18, 19, and 20, are in high school? So you have a freshman, 14, 15. Hey, go buy me a pack of tobacco, cigarettes, whatever, no problem. So we know there is a connection that if we raise the age to 21, we can possibly, and we know for certain that we can decrease the usage, because we know that 21, actually 25 is the magic number, but 21, we know that the youth's brain slows down the development. Once a youth's brain becomes addicted to any substance, specifically nicotine, those receptors in the brain continue to want an addictive substance. We can almost guarantee that most who begin with nicotine at a young age will move to alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, and heroin. This is a huge issue that affects everyone around the country. And we know the long-term effects of tobacco use. So it's so vitally important. I would love to see the council move forward in committee to start beginning the process of adopting Tobacco 21. And I've spoken to Wickliffe City Council, Menor on the Lake. I'll be speaking to East Lake and City of Menor. So I'm making my rounds, and I think many of you might have heard me talk before. Some of you might have heard, rumors that we're trying to push it here in Lake County, and we are. The Lake County General Health District has signed a resolution that we will support you in your effort to adopt Tobacco 21. We will help with education. We will help with enforcement. But we need to move now, because we have an epidemic on our hands. Most people also do not realize that 1 in 4 of our youth are presently using e-cigarettes. Technically, they say it's not a tobacco product. Problem is, it still contains nicotine. Nicotine is what is addicting. And we don't have the evidence right now to show that the use of e-cigarettes is going to progress these kids into using tobacco products. Because in the end, we know that if someone uses tobacco products for a long time, their chances of dying greatly increase. And I'm sure most of us know someone who's used tobacco products has COPD, heart disease, stroke. Around the country, around the globe, tobacco use is the #1 reason why people die prematurely. We have to stop it now. At least give our kids a fighting chance. I grew up in Lake County. Lake County is my home. I love this place. And, I can remember driving past Eastlake when I was in the 70s and watching the kids on the sidewalk smoking. I wonder how many of those kids are still around today. Probably not. I see family members who are suffering from COPD, and they suffer on a regular basis. So I asked the committee, I asked the residents, support these initiatives. We did a survey in Lake County, and I just wanted to tell you, 73% of our residents in Lake County either agree or strongly agree. 55% strongly agree. The other 25% agree that we should adopt tobacco 73%. That's a huge number. So you have the support within the community to adopt this, and it will not impact business. We've already seen it in Needham, Massachusetts. They were the first one to adopt tobacco 21. They have seen no businesses go out of business because it was raised to the 21 age. So I strongly, would like to see this committee push it into committee for discussion and really start the conversation, because we really want to stop this addiction and give our kids a fighting chance to have healthy lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Two safe comments. Matt Babika, former resident, 30250 Twin Lakes Drive, now representing as the National Stop the Bleed effort. Just one, how seamless sign-up was, Director Stopp and Mayor Barbish. This is going to go live as far as Wickliffe's participation in a couple hours nationally, because every city that participates is starting to get national recognition, and it's just starting to waterfall and spiral across the country in real time. I was just sitting in Mayor Barbish's office just watching everyone post their commitments to excellence city by city. So this is really expanding. But one of the roadblocks a lot of these cities are experiencing is how do we actually get the city's participation and get the education out to the citizens? So this was seamless. This was about 2 emails, and we had a method of sign up all ready to go with everything posted. So thank you for a seamless ability to sign up and encourage that participation. For both chiefs, Chief Powers, and Chief Ice, if you have any officers that want to tourniquet refresher training in between the classes or want to show up, since we haven't had a chance to schedule another in-service, just send them if they want to stop, and I'll get them up to speed. Obviously, my course is going to supersede the federal campaign. It's going to go way above the standard, just because that's what I want to do. And Chief Powers, if any of your fire EMS wants to show up so they can understand the protocol that we're using and the continuum of care that the residents are going to be using, open door policy if they want to come in. If they need in-service hours for bleeding control, if they want to show up for training too, more than welcome. So, thank you.
So is this the same program you put on for us, or similar?
So yes, it will be a layperson version of that. It will be bleeding control basics as compared to your patrolmen and SRT teams. They received quite a few additional hours and a little bit more technical techniques. But at the end of the day, the tourniquet application standard is going to be the same that I gave your officers. I'm going to give that to the community.
I can endorse this program. I mean, he came by and showed us the use of tourniquets. I don't know if people remember, but years ago, maybe you remember hearing this, you put a tourniquet on a limb, you're going to lose a limb, which turned out to be complete nonsense. And I'm sure you can tell you that using a tourniquet actually saves people's lives. And as a result of this training, and I went through it, I think probably a more robust version that he had. And he actually had a mannequin down there that he had blood or I don't know, some kind of juice going through it, like blood. He had to put like pressure on it, and it works. So we purchased the tourniquets actually for our officers. If they get shot and they're injured, seriously injured, and they're waiting for a couple of minutes, you can bleed out in a couple of minutes. So everybody carries these tourniquets now. So I endorse what he's doing just from the training that we've been through.
I appreciate that very much, Chief. Yep, the whole tourniquet goes on, the limb comes off. That was back in the days of World War I, World War II, where it took days to get to a support hospital and gangrene would set in. Anyone who's had orthopedic or vascular repair surgery, you have a tourniquet the whole time so the surgeon can see what he's doing. So it's kind of a myth busted there. The tourniquet is the go-to for massive bleeding when EMS cannot get to you. The capstone example is that active shooter event. If someone is still inflicting and increasing the kill count, traditional EMS cannot get in there until it's no longer a hot zone. But we know you can still bleed in that time. So this is designed to give law enforcement the first in, or the layperson, an educator, or even someone who's a student that's old enough to follow commands and understand first aid. John and I got our CPR certifications in the 7th grade, our first one in middle school. So if we can do compressions for a full round, we can turn the plastic crank till bleeding stops. So that's what we're doing now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Terry Zerzak. I live at 2242 East 290 90th Street. In February, I believe it was February 12th, Mayor Barbish had raised the issue with the garbage ordinance and primarily residents putting their garbage out days before their scheduled time, or for whatever reason leaving it out after people didn't pick it up. That was sent over to the Legislation and Welfare Committee, and I wanted to check on the progress. That meeting has been scheduled, and when is it scheduled for? Has this been a month already?
It has not been scheduled yet, correct?
I'm about to schedule a meeting now, after Mr. Zorowski schedules his.
Oh, okay, well, you were scheduling your meeting in April, correct?
Correct.
Oh, I didn't
I
realize
have,
that.
yeah, I
April
April
16th.
I have meetings sketching, I'm scheduling meetings in March, but you can
Right.
throw yours in there if you want to do that as well.
No, I'd like to schedule one in March. I've got a few things I want to bring to committee. So,
From your committee, let's
From my
just remember.
committee, yes.
Okay, so next Monday is probably when we're going to have a meeting on that. We'll let you know,
Monday?
well, yeah, we'll figure out the time later on in this agenda.
Okay.
Can you spell
Sandy.
her name, please? Your
Sure.
last name?
Teresek. It's TERESCCUK.
Would anyone else like to address with the city council? You're welcome, sorry.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address with the city council? Go ahead, here.
Pat Hintz Jewell, Jewell, 2162 Rockefeller Road. My concern, and I know we have a lot of new council people, welcome, and I'm also somebody who grew up here, went to school here, has lived here, Trevor, and I like to see new ideas, and at the same time, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater when we get new stuff going on. And so my concern is I'm hearing that we're going to lose $31,000 a year by we're starting to outsource things, and I'm concerned about personnel. I'm concerned because this city has always taken care of itself. This city has always had the people who live here. I went to school with Tim's older brother. I've known Mr. Sack since I was in middle school, high school. You know, I went to school with you, Pete, right? So we've always worked together in this city, and the people who work for the city hall and work for the departments and have worked for many years for the departments, and for us to start outsourcing and saying, you're no longer necessary in your city, that disturbs, and especially when we're saying, we're going to outsource and we're going to lose money in the process. Both of those things disturb me, to be honest with you. I think, you know, I think, you know, as I said, coming in, let's look at some of the new ideas, but let's be careful not to lose the community we have in the process. And let's be careful to say, wait a minute, you know, what are the rules, laws, what's happened? You know, I've never been on council before. Some of you haven't, and so I'm not telling you what to, but I'm saying as you walk into these new positions, can we look at these things carefully before we just jump in and say, oh, we don't need this department anymore because the county's doing it. And so that is my concern here tonight.
Understandable. Mayor?
Can I reply to that really quick?
Yeah.
It's definitely not a hastily decision, as Councilman Sacks and I had a meeting 2 weeks ago, and it was placed at the committee for further discussion. And again, I didn't list every single detail of it because this is a brief meeting to have a further meeting. You know, when I said we'd lose, you know, a couple dollars, 35,000, that could mean we don't need a building commissioner who's making 80 plus his benefits. I'm not saying Ray's not important to the city, but it becomes a time when we have to do what's in the best interest of the community, and that means efficiency. It doesn't mean getting rid of our building department. I made that very clear before. It's not an all or nothing situation. Maybe Ray would like to continue on and do property maintenance enforcement so we can uphold the aesthetics of the city, which have, in my opinion, gone by the wayside the past decade. So please don't think that these decisions are just, oh, we don't need these people, we don't need these people. They're thought out very carefully, and then the discussions are continuing as time goes on. If it makes sense, dollars and cents and logistics, and it's in the best interest of the city, we have to move forward. If it doesn't, I wouldn't just look at something and say, well, we're going to lose 30,000, let's get rid of that. That doesn't make any sense. So just to at least reiterate that fact, they are thought about and looked at very carefully.
I see what you're saying. As I said, though, I want to be very careful that we don't lose the fact that this has always been a community of itself, taking care of it. I mean, we have most of us know our families. I know almost every name in this room, right? So, because we do, and I think we have to be cautious. I mean, I understand you're saying you're being cautious, and I understand what you're saying. At the same time, we're talking about people here. We're not talking, you know, the bottom line is we're talking about the people who have served this community faithfully for many years, and that has to be considered.
And I would just like to comment too. I would like you to know that I am committed to making sure we look at these decisions very carefully. And I agree with you. Sometimes with the fast pace of these meetings, it sounds to me even, as you can tell from my reaction last time, is that we're not carefully considering huge decisions. And I, of course, grew up in this city too. I grew up with all these people too, and I care about all of these people too. And I think many of the citizens care about the people that have served this city. So we're not going to just jump into anything, believe me. And you have my commitment that I will do my very best to make sure that we carefully consider every single thing we do.
Thank you.
All right.
Chair, Councilwoman McCaskey.
And in regards to what the mayor presented in his report about the Lake County Building Department, none of that has been presented to the rest of us, so we don't know the details of that, but our building department does bring in the largest amount of money in the city last year, including the sewer and dye tests. They brought in $320,000. Without that, somewhere $200,000+ they bring in annually. So this is something that I would hope that everyone in council would take into consideration when we do look at this and what's going to be presented to us.
Exactly.
Because we don't want to lose a lot of income with ADB being gone. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the Wickliffe City Council? Ms. Fowler?
Good evening. My name is Patricia Fowler, 30380 Bridle Path Trail. I've been a Wickliffe resident for 25 years now, since I married my wonderful husband. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of background information. I understand that council's looking carefully at job positions within the city and potentially cutting some full-time positions down to part-time positions. But unfortunately, I don't think council knows everything that a city program coordinator does. I congratulate Mr. Sakis for coming in and spending a half an hour with me to learn about my job, even prior to his being elected to the seat. So thank you very much. I've also worked with Councilwoman Koski through the Keep Wickliffe Beautiful Commission, and now Councilwoman Salato is on that commission as well. So they have an idea of what Keep Wickliffe Beautiful does. But the city programs coordinator position was created in 2008 when 2 jobs were merged into one. There used to be a director of litter prevention and recycling, which was my position, and then it was merged in with the receptionist office position. Now, the receptionist office position does require answering the phones, and that's the first thing you might think of is my job, is to answer the phone. Yes, I answer the phone, but I also answer it in a courteous way that directs people to who they need to speak to. It's not an answering machine right now, and sometimes some of the questions are a little bit convoluted, and you have to figure out who to give those questions to. But I also make sure that the supplies are ordered effectively and in the most cost-effective way for the city, and I look for cost savings and to stay within budget as much as I can. As city programs coordinator, I'm continually evaluating programs that can help the city. Right now, I'm working with Habitat for Humanity to help facilitate the renovation of Provo House, thanks to Mayor Barbish's suggestion. And I have some groups going in there to do some cleanup work, as well as helping coordinate some painting. Working with the service department and the service director to help make that come along effectively as well. Some of my job programs have helped the service department by offsetting the amount of personnel that they need to plant flowers on Euclid Avenue, do cleanups around the city, and that's important as well. I also am the cemetery liaison. When someone needs to purchase a niche for down at the Wickliffe Cemetery, they come up to the office and they see me. I issue the deeds. I let them know what niches are available, what the regulations are, and then I coordinate amendments down there with the service department sexton, who makes sure everything goes smoothly. I currently serve as the Records Commission Secretary. I work with the law director to make sure any requests for public information are fulfilled quickly and effectively. Those requests go through my office, and I make sure that they are fulfilled and that the records are maintained appropriately. I also update the website on a daily basis. I post the videos of this meeting as well as the minutes for this meeting, upcoming meetings. I also put any commission and committee meetings on that. I post for the recreation department and any special events going on within the city. And that's just the front half of the paper, so let me turn it to the back. I'm currently serving as the city's representative to the Lake County Health Board and also serve as the president pro town. So when the president is unable to serve, I'm the person who is conducting that important health board meeting on a monthly basis. And last but not least is director of Keep Wickliffe Beautiful. Keep Wickliffe Beautiful has been a city commission for over 30 years now. And without them, I hate to see what the city looks like. We have maintained and improved our litter prevention program over the past 30 years to right now. Our litter index rating is a 1.0, which means minimum to no litter within the city, thanks to the wonderful volunteers who come out every spring, summer, and fall to keep our city clean. We also plant roses on the roses in the Rose Garden, which is a wonderful memorial to past residents, and we also do our Flowers on the Avenue program. These are not charged to the city. The Flowers on the Avenue program, we solicit businesses and they generously donate, and we have volunteers go out and plant flowers. We host special recycling events. The city is no longer able to fund our special recycling events like our Shred Paper, Shred Your Files Day. And so Keep Wickliffe Beautiful raises monies to host that event within the city. So I want to encourage council to consider keeping the program coordinator position full-time. It's very busy. In the past 3 years, I've generated between $40,000 and $45,000 of in-kind grants and volunteer hour donations to our city, which essentially pays my salary and more. So I do hope that you will consider keeping me full-time and the position as a full-time position, because it is very busy. Thank you for your attention and your time.
Anybody else like to address with the city council? Somebody else go.
Okay,
Mr. Martin.
Yes, it's hard to follow that, but, and I appreciate all those comments. The way our world seems to be, shared services or outsourcing services, and a real difficult thing to consider when you're dealing with people. My question actually, and I think the two people have left, the young lady from the General Health District and the gentleman here for, stop the bleed, dang it, stop the words. I would just like to make sure that communications of these two events or these two issues are shared with the school district directly. They both seem to be educational programs to me. And I just want to make, I don't know what kind of communication program you may have in place. The Stop the Bleed Day, that's short notice period, okay? But that would be my plea, is to make sure that someone up at the administrative office with the schools is aware of both of these items, and we can, if we have to, we'll pass a resolution supporting it, or contribute to it first people-wise to help out. Thank you.
Mayor.
Mr. Martin, I did speak with Superintendent Specia maybe a week or so ago, and Mr. Babika, who was leading this program, just logistically, we just booked the date, I think a week ago, Tim. So Mr. Specia did seem on board, as Mr. Babika would provide. This training is meant to be for people of responsibility, teachers and whatnot. Of course, you can't force them to go to this training, but we want people to have this training that are around large groups of people, large groups of children. I'll definitely reach out to Superintendent Specia after this, now that we have the resolution signed, but it would be great to see the school board go forward with that as well, as he can do training in the school as time goes on and more details.
That was my next question. Did you get Mr. Immaculate to find out what you can do at another time, not necessarily linked with Stop the Bleed Day.
Exactly. There's a lot more they can do. There's a lot more they can do. I'll be glad to share his contact information with you as well.
Share it with Mr. Fisher.
I will.
As a board member, I don't want to do anything by myself anymore.
Gotcha.
I learned my lesson the hard way.
No problem.
Would anyone else like to address with the city council?
Can I do a follow-up?
Yeah.
Thank you. Pat Jewell, 2162 Road. I'd like to follow up with what Patty said because I have been blessed enough to be able to help Patty on several occasions, and the volunteers that come out for the planting of both the roses and the flowers along Euclid and putting together clothing for people in need at this year. How many bags of clothing went out there, I don't know, but all these people showed up and we knew people are being taken care of. What Patty does is vital to this city. And I don't think we always know what other people are doing, but I'm glad you had the courage to stand up on it because you are very important. So, thank you.
Would anyone else like to address with the city council? Go ahead, Mr. Fowler.
Yes, I'm Clint Fowler, 30380 North Trail. Patty's husband. Some things that she won't tell you that I see all the time. I'm not big on flowers. You know, she badgers me into it, and I'll drag cases of water to the folks that are working. And then you look around, and you see an 80-year-old couple and a 17-year-old from high school working in the cemetery and enjoying each other. These are some of the small things. You see the football team getting together to paint the restrooms down at the park. You know, whole day, Patty's out there, she's got it arranged, she's got pizza coming in. They're having a good time, they're doing something good. Or you're down at a recycling event, and you see 3 or 4 youngsters from the high school who are having an opportunity to get the community service hours in. We don't see these things. I listen to Patty, and when we have the terrible weather events, and she gets phone calls from some of our elderly citizens, they're frightened, and it comes out as an angry phone call. You know, there's somebody in this city that's listening and try to get them to calm down, and to the extent that we can, get some resources to try to help the situation out. It's not in the job description. It's what she does. So I'd ask you to consider this. These are important things to our community. I've been here since I moved here in 1984, so even though I'm not lifelong, I've lived in the city longer than many of you. I like my town, and I think these are some of the things that make the difference.
Would anybody else like to address with the city council? Okay, I'm on mark audience participation closed. Committee reports. The Finance Committee met on March 5th at 7 p.m. to discuss 2018 pavement improvements, infrastructure project, and 2018 budget. Present, Bianello, Bogo, Jaworski, Kasi, Levon, Sakis, Soloto. Also present, Barbish, Ice, Formica, D'Ambrosia, Strouser, Doles, Sack, Stock, Powers. City Engineer Formica provided the committee an overview of the Maple Street project. Councilwoman Kasi asked her in as she was excused from the previous meeting. Councilwoman Soloto had no objections to moving forward with the project. The committee supports the project and recommends to council that it authorize the engineer to proceed with the project. This item is reported out of committee. Mayor Barbish notified the committee that he added $10,000 to the budget for board docs. Councilman Sakis recommended that we added $30,000 to the police capital line item for body armor cameras for the police force. Police Chief Ice said that this item is low on his priority list as he has greater needs of vehicles and other equipment. This is something we could look into in the future. After having individual conversations with some council people, the mayor recommends that we move both the positions of building administrative assistant and payroll benefits coordinator to part-time with a maximum of 28 hours per week. He does not recommend moving the position of mayor secretary to part-time. Councilman Jaworski recommended that we also move the positions of recreation administrative assistant and programs coordinator to part-time as well. Councilwoman Zukoski and Soloto objected to these cuts, but the rest of the council recommends we proceed with moving all 4 positions to part-time. The mayor will contact the labor negotiator to start the negotiations with the union regarding these position changes. The budget deficit for this year will be $835,586. The majority of the committee recommends the council that the budget be approved. This item is reported out of committee. Meeting adjourned at 8:17. Respectfully submitted. Okay, I'd like to call a committee of the whole meeting at 7:15 to discuss board docs. At 7:30 to discuss Kevin Clark Drive culvert pipe. Okay. Oh, this is March 19th. My bad. March 19th, 7:15, 7:30 for committee of the whole. Finance committee at 7:45 to discuss mayor's court.
Ben, I'd also like to call a legislation of welfare committee meeting.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I cannot call the meeting until April. The first week of April, I'm going to be out of town.
On next Monday, go down? Okay.
Next Monday, yes.
Okay, you can call for that.
So, yeah, I have a big work event, so I'm not going to be in town all week.
April 2nd?
April 2nd seems like the best next time.
And what?
To discuss residential and commercial property maintenance codes, as well as renter home registration and inspection. And then I'd also like to talk about tobacco 21.
Okay.
And then also talk about the garbage collection issue.
The rules for garbage collection?
Yes.
Okay. At 7 o'clock?
Yes.
That was April 2nd.
Council President, I apologize if I missed this. Sorry.
You're talking about the Lake County building?
Correct, yeah.
After he talks about new business, I'll add.
Got it, okay.
Any other committee reports or scheduling? Councilman Jaworski.
I would like to call an economic development meeting for April 16th at 7 p.m.
To discuss?
To discuss the RFP.
And if I wanted to add something, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if I wanted to add something to the committee as a whole, when would I do that?
You would add it during new business of when we add it to the agenda. So you can add it next week at the 26th
right.
meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Commission reports. Seeing none, see no old business, new business A, Lake County Building Department. Councilman Sakis.
So I'd like to put it into committee to have guys from the county building department to come talk to the council.
Okay. I will put that in the committee of the whole, and I will call a meeting for that at 7 p.m. on March 19th.
Yeah,
7 p.m. on March 19th.
thank you.
Anything else, Councilman Sakis? Good. Okay, ordinances.
Ordinance number 2018-03, an ordinance amending Chapter 17107, hospitalization of the codified ordinances of the City of Wickliffe, Ohio, third reading.
Adoption.
Second. Moved by Councilman Jaworski, seconded by Councilman Bogo to adopt ordinance 2018-3 as, oh, sorry, is it 2018-3 as presented? Yes, right. Discussion? Ms. Doles, correct me if I'm wrong, we talked about it at the first meeting. There's nobody on the city council that's taking any benefits, correct?
I am taking dental.
Are you taking that up? Okay. I thought that nobody was taking it at the last meeting. Okay. Any other further discussion? Sandy, please call the roll.
Biondello?
Yes.
Bogo?
Yes.
Jaworski?
Yes.
Kowski? Yes. Levon?
Yes.
Sakis?
Yes.
Solotra?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2018-09, an ordinance amending Chapter 92105, collection of costs of the codified ordinances of the City of Wickliffe, Ohio, second reading.
We already did resolutions. Other legislation? Miscellaneous? I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Jaworski, seconded by Councilwoman Kowski to move into executive session. Sandy, please call the roll.
Biancarlo.
Yes.
Bogo.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Kowski.
Yes.
Levon.
Yes.
Sakis.
Yes.
Saludo.
Yes.